Sup? What's up? How are you? The whole crew's here today. We got Callie, we got Fluffy, and never forget, we got Biscuit passed out on the floor over there. He's taking him a little nap. And of course, we have Steve.
Hello. My neighbor just started mowing their lawn.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, too bad they don't got the lawnmower I got. You'd never know it.
Probably not. Yeah, no. Well, they're not the. I think. Well, one of the neighbor right behind me has an electric mower like I do. It's all the others that have gas ones. So.
Yeah. Well, there, Fluffy says good night. It's time for bed. She is headed upstairs. Callie's being unusually social today, so I don't know what the deal is with her. She'll probably be hanging out for a little while. She got a little loud a while ago with her meows.
It'll happen.
But how is everybody? I know it's a rainy. It was a hot day here today, and then I guess it was about 4 o'clock or so. We got the afternoon thunder, and it's like, okay, whatever. But then it started cooling off, so I was like, okay, it could really happen. So it's been raining here for about the past 2.5 hours or so now. And I did get to test the rain sensor on the lawnmower. I got soaked waiting on it to trigger, but it does work. So the lawnmower's in a 3.5 hour timeout currently. So we'll see how that goes.
Timeout, huh?
Yeah, I don't know that it will come out tonight. I don't know how that works. Haven't tested that, but it didn't finish the yard, so it has some more to do. So we'll see what happens.
Mm. Cool.
Maybe it fires up in the middle of the night and finishes the yard. I don't know.
Well, I mean, hey, at least now you've done all the work of mapping it out. It just kind of gets to do its thing and it tells you it had a problem.
Mm-hmm. Brad's Custom Boards apparently has observed that box sitting over your shoulder.
Well, I'm not as cool as having a retirement calendar. I can't afford that, but
well, hey, it is what it is. 94 days. I'm almost to that point. I got to turn paperwork in.
Wow.
What's up, Cody?
So yeah, Bamboo's having summer sale or whatever. And so they've got some decent pricing again on some of their printers. And so I had been watching the P1S with the AMS and decided I'd jump on that. I didn't opt for the new updated AMS. I mean, it was another $120, and it does add some features like it has a proactive dryer and a little bit easier maintenance on some of the things, but I don't know. I wasn't sure it was $120 upgrade worth it for me right now. Maybe I'll regret it, but
yeah,
I'm just happy to have the AMS on the enclosed printer. So it's sitting back there. It's waiting to get unboxed. Unfortunately, I've been busy with other things this weekend, not even necessarily shop stuff. So maybe later this week I'll get it cracked open.
Cool. Yeah, I've been eyeballing one of the P1S or either the X1 Carbon myself, but I opted to spend my extra money on a lawnmower to help me hopefully get a little more time either in the shop, on the channel, on the lake, in the woods, whichever it may be. So I did that, and so far I'm not regretting my decision so far. So we'll see how that works out. I hope it continues to stay that way. But yeah, the X1 Carbon would be really nice, but the P1S, I think, truthfully, I think the P1S is all I really need. I don't think for what I use it for, I don't think I could justify the expense for the X1 Carbon unless I just wanted it, to say I had it. Because I know it would be a little faster. I think that did have just a little bit bigger work area. But yeah, it's hard with me being able to do everything that I need to do right now with my A1. It's hard for me to invest currently.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's still a good $300-400 difference, and unless you're getting into some of the higher temp materials and such. I feel like the P1S is kind of the next step up. If they come out with the like an H2 light or something like that, that's got the bigger build area, and maybe if they did that with just a single print head or something, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
If the price is right. But I mean, right now you can get the base P1S for like $500, and it was like six something with the AMS on it. I was like, okay, that was kind of more in my price range, because I always like to buy a few, spare parts, some hot ends, bed, the additional build plates, things like that. So all that little stuff adds on as well. So I definitely wasn't wanting to go over $1,000 right now on an additional 3D printer that is more of want to have but don't need to have.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. It doesn't classify itself as a need right now. It's because like I said, the A1 has been serving me well and it's done everything I need to do so far. I just want to do some different materials. And so I think the P1 or the X1 carbon would probably be better for the material.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely definitely a nice printer, but I'm okay with the other one. So we'll see. Like I say, hopefully later this week I can crack it open and get it fired up. Actually, this came, the other part of my shipment didn't come, which this is the printer and the AMS. So I mean, I could have fired it up anyway, but just kind of wait. I think the other parts are coming on the 1st, on Tuesday. So
yeah, Brian's saying that the P1S and the X1 are the same speed and work area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to get to the H2 to get the bigger area, I believe. So. But speaking of 3D printers, I did get something done with them today or this week.
What's that? Oh, yeah. I saw that video you did on that thing.
It's a little bright.
I was going to say, it kind of whites out a little bit when you turn it up.
Yeah, it defaults to like a brighter setting, but I bought these dimming power adapters for USB power. And so, yeah, mixed the 3 machines, 3D printed the base, which is, the Star Trek insignia, then laser cut the clear acrylic to fit inside the pocket there, and then used the Eufy UV printer to do some printing on there. I took the original motion picture from Star Trek, their movie poster, had to edit it a little bit to make everything fit in the way I wanted to, but had some fun with that. I did play around with printing on the top versus the bottom and having to reverse the image. And an interesting thing, because you can have the option where it lays down white and then your color on top of that, which would be normal if you're printing on top. But in this case, I had it print the colors and then lay the white down over the top of that, which acts as a diffuser. It worked a lot better with it on the backside, with the image reversed on the backside of the acrylic than on the top. So I had to actually add a little extra diffuser in the other one. So those are some of the things that they're tweaking with the software, with the various creators like myself and some of their beta testers have been going through a lot of scenarios like this. Hey, try this, try that. And they continue to tweak the software, which is nice to see them do, getting some improvements in some areas. So the Kickstarter ended, was it Saturday night or Friday night? And so now they start into the fulfillment phase. I don't know when they're going to be available retail, but I did reach out to my first contact and said, hey, is there any way I can get some ink now? Because I still have some more projects I want to do and share some videos on it. And they arranged for me to get some more. So
cool.
To continue to have some fun with that. And we'll see how it lasts in the long run.
Yeah. Yep, Robbie, 94 days until I am done. It's getting closer. I can remember when I first built that thing, it was like 365 is the way what I built it for. So it's been with us for a while. But yeah, 94 days, it's getting close. And that's one thing that I've been trying to do, is try to make sure I got all my ducks in a row for that, because like I said, it's going to be a bit of a culture shock for me going from, working to retiring from that line of work. My wife keeps telling me not to tell people that I'm retiring, because I'm technically not retiring. I'm just changing jobs. Now I will be drawing a pension from the other one. So, I mean, that helps.
I mean,
but
yeah,
but yeah,
you're retiring from a career,
yeah.
but you're not giving up work.
Oh yeah, no, I probably will be working harder than I have been at work, to be honest, because like the past couple of days, I started doing videos on the other channel for like home related stuff. And I'm going to tell you, I know why I like doing lasers and CNCs now, because they're inside, typically in climate controlled environments.
Sort of.
This little lawnmower video I did, I bet I've lost 20 pounds, which now I've been getting my yard shaped up also because since the back surgery and the knee surgery and everything, I've had to kind of approach things as what needs to be done and what I want to do, and sometimes what I wanted to do I didn't get to do. So I'm finally getting back to the point where I can get that stuff done, and it was fun, letting the robot do the cutting while I was out there picking up pine cones and limbs and filling in holes and stuff like that. So it's definitely an angle that I'm glad I stumbled into.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, I mean, you might be working harder, but it'll probably be more fulfilling. Not that your current career isn't, but I mean,
well,
after you work a job so long,
yeah, the new wears off. You know
yeah,
what I mean? It's and it's like some of the guys is like that I work with are like, hey, look, not everybody makes it 25. So you've made it. Go home, do something else, enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the way I look at it is hopefully this second career will be as good to me as the first one was. And like I said, I enjoy working for myself, and I'm already trying to figure out exactly where I'm going to go, like for what events and stuff like that. I mean, because now I am responsible for, making sure I make enough money to pay insurance and stuff, as well as trying to grow this thing to where it can, it can hopefully help me enjoy a little bit of like travel and stuff as I retire. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Well, getting closer and you'll find out.
Yeah. These strange things says, oh, wait a minute. I clicked the wrong one. He says, I've started a countdown too, but it's a very large number. That's like Steve's. Steve's has 4 digits.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so many variables, it's hard to know. But, technically, I could start drawing retirement in 9 years, but I couldn't afford it in 9 years. So,
yeah,
it could be as high as 20 years, honestly. So, yeah,
Santa, I'm not planning on doing any of that stuff. I'm gonna be honest with you. That's not my thing. I know a lot of people like doing that. They do that final call and all that. It's just not really my thing. I'm probably gonna be part-time with them for a little while anyway. So that's not something I really care to be. And then Klein's over there trying to get me to to sign up for another event. But what Klein don't realize is until they work with their city government to get it to where you don't have to have a business license to come do that event, that's an added expense. And also, sales tax, the way sales tax works around here anyway, is if I go do an event up there, now every month from now until the end of time, I've got to submit a zero sales tax for them. And that's a headache that I have to deal with month after month after month. So there's a lot goes into these events that people don't realize if you do it the right way. Now, if I just go up there and sell some stuff and don't pay sales tax, but if you do it the right way, events do come with their own little unique set of headaches.
So that's one thing I like about up here in Minnesota is they collect sales tax quarterly through the Secretary of State's office, including any municipality. So if I happen to go to an event in a new area, I just have to keep track of that. I go, and then when my quarterly taxes are due, I type in this date, or I bring up that municipality. It shows, okay, here's the tax rates for there, and then you enter in them. So they make it fairly easy, but that doesn't mean that the city doesn't also have requirements for you to be a vendor there. Most of them don't, especially if it's like a cottage industry thing. And even if you don't have a business license and a tax ID, there is a form that most events, I forget what it is. There's a Minnesota State tax form that you can fill out that allows you to do like a one-time tax remittance for, for someone who's doing it as a hobby and is only going to do 1 or 2 shows. They'll do it that way. So, but yeah, it does add some complexity going to additional events and selling items. And that's where in some of these, I've gone and just demonstrated and,
Yeah.
Because
you can go and not sell things and sometimes come out better because you're still going to get that after the event sale. Yeah. But you're not having to like collect taxes and all that. So, I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not going to participate in it, but I don't know how much selling I would be doing there because I said it just complicates things. And because I've got hit before when I first started, the city of Clanton here, which they've quit now, thank God. They used this independent company to collect their sales tax, which I said from the beginning was like should be illegal because this company would charge you a 200% late fee if you didn't file a 0 report. And when I first started, I may go 2 or 3 months and not sell anything. And so I didn't think about going in and completing a report saying, hey, I didn't sell nothing this month and submit it. I didn't think about that. I was like, I don't owe them anything, so I shouldn't have to submit nothing. Wrong. I got hit with $200 late fees for $3 and some change in taxes. And so you got to be careful with those things. Because I mean, I wound up that $3 and something tax ended up costing me $200 in late fees and I didn't even sell anything those months. But they've since got away from that company and reverted back to state collection, which is
we still have to do that, but the state's good at sending out a reminder to your email, and then there is a grace period. So, but even if you don't sell anything, you do have to go in and report 0 sales, which is they make it pretty easy. My biggest hang up on it is it's like a very similar system that I use as an employee. So sometimes I'm like, wait, which password are they asking for?
Yeah,
because it's like legit same login, same system to log in and whatnot. So,
yep. So what up, Greg? Got that building built over there yet? Still haven't heard anything on the date. I'm still waiting. Or did I get left out? Have y'all already had y'all's event?
Yeah.
He was saying he was hoping to get moved in by July. I don't know that they're going to make the July deadline. Huh?
Well, he's got 2 days then.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's probably looking more like an August deadline now because, like I said, things don't ever go as fast as you would like for them to. So.
Right. Yeah. Jared's asking if we've tried one-sided tumbler engraving with the Lumos. Curious how slow it would be and if it could be done at an event. I haven't played with the rotary yet. I've only received the base rotary. I didn't get the long, cool extension slide job. And I've been a little busy on other things, but I did pull that one down into the basement workshop because I've been working on a couple of the other galvos. I mean, it shouldn't be any worse than an original X-Tool D1. Actually, it should be faster than that. Because the galvo can go faster, the power is going to be about the same.
Yeah, the unidirectional is the only big difference.
But my concern about doing it at an event is lack of protection. It's going to reflect a lot of that light because that tumbler and rotary don't allow you to use the enclosure. So you're going to have to manage that as well. And if you put that into a secondary enclosure to block it off from people viewing it, now you've lost your cool, draw people to the booth, what's going on over there kind of thing. So it's a balance. I think you could do them, but it's not going to be as fast as, say, dog tags and things like that. But
well, my view on that would be take the order for the tumbler and do it later because at an event, and trust me, I've been at enough of them, you're going to be so slammed doing bottle openers and dog tags and pet tags and little small stuff like that you're making $5 and $10 in like 5 minutes that you're not going to want to shut your machine down for 20 minutes to do a tumbler that you're probably not really making that much more profit on the tumbler than you would a dog tag or a keychain or something. Because in order to stay competitive with tumblers, because everybody does them, it's your pricing's probably going to be, like I said, you could probably do 20 dog tags in the time that it would take you to do 2 tumblers. So yeah, I would just take those orders and do tumblers later, like Steve said, because twofold: the safety concerns, of course, and secondarily, it would be the fact that if you're in a rush and people are talking to you and you're distracted by people walking by, it's one thing if you mess up a dog tag blank that you paid 25 cents for, but if you mess up a tumbler that you paid, anywhere from $5 to $8, depending on where you get it, or even more possibly, that's a big deal. So I try to keep stuff like that back at the shop when I can kind of control the environment, because the last thing I need is me trying to talk to somebody to land another sale and forget to do something and then end up messing up a tumbler. And I've just cost myself the money that I could have been making. So
yep.
Things to consider.
When you're doing that. Definitely a good point. Captain MK, Captain Mike, maybe. When using a CO2 laser with acrylic, is it best to have a little air assist or none at all? I'm questioning my 3 psi that I currently have because I'm getting some blowback on the second layer. So when cutting acrylic, you're not going to want to use as much air as you would with wood. It can cause a rougher cut. You need enough just to kind of cool the acrylic after the lasers cut it. But not so much that it blows that molten plastic into kind of a rough edge, or you get almost like lines in it. You want just enough to kind of cool off the edges, and you'll get a cleaner cut that way. Ideally, though, you're doing it one pass. 2 passes cutting acrylic can cause some of that similar issues. Now, when it comes to engraving, that's where I like to leave the backer on. If you got the paper backer, leave that on, and a little air. At that point, air is not going to, you want air on, but it's not going to have as big an effect, I find, as when cutting. So, but you do want to have some on. The reason I don't want the backer off is because that can blow around, and then when you're cleaning up that dust, it can scratch the surface of the acrylic. So it's nicer to clean it off with the backer still on, and then pull that off and weed out any interior spots.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The air assist is a balance. And like I said, the best way, there's not really a number when you start talking about PSI and all that, because there's so many variables between the size of the hole, the diameter of the tube, the exit pupil. All these things are variables. To me, the best way is if you can adjust it as it's cutting and just do it based on the result that you're getting, not necessarily a number. Because I hear people all the time, you need 10 PSI. Well, that depends. Your system, 10 PSI through one system is a lot more air than 10 PSI through this other system. Some of these machines that have the orifice as big as the end of this pencil right here, you need 10 PSI. But if you have an opening that is properly sized, that's like the size of this ball point right here, then you don't need but a couple of PSI. So it's a variable. And I like to adjust mine. Like I said, when possible, I like to adjust mine in the cut and just look at how the cut is, how clean the cut is, how smooth the edge is for acrylic and that kind of thing. But But yeah, if you've got a fixed air assist setup, you're never going to have the perfect air assist setting for everything. It kind of needs a little bit of an adjustment. If not, you just kind of need to set it in middle ground and go with it. So somebody was asking, Wisa says, do you guys have a good laser mask for sandblasting stone or glass? I've never fooled with that, so I couldn't tell you. Never done any sandblasting other than just like cleaning metal for painting.
Yeah, no, I suppose you could apply. Well, I don't know if you're sandblasting though. Yeah, that's a good question. I was gonna say you could apply like an aura mask, but the sandblast might go through that. You could cut out the design and weed it out, but I don't know. Don't have a good recommendation there.
Yeah, I'd have to research it because that's not something I've done before.
Sabergun's asking, on your CO2 lasers, are you using a water bucket and submersible pump or a chiller? Back when I first got my laser, I started out with just the pump and a big reservoir. I started with the 5-gallon bucket, upgraded to a bigger tote that I could seal to some degree, but it was never a purely, it wasn't a truly sealed system. Eventually some impurities got in there, and I ended up with a tube that had all sorts of algae and crap in there. I was able to get most of it out with some bleach and some anti-algicide, or some algicide, not anti-algicide. That'd be the opposite one.
Like a double negative.
Yeah. But quickly after that, I did move to having a chiller. And so now the Reno 45 Pro that I'm running in my basement shop right now, it stays cool enough down there. I'm just running the CW 3000, which is a radiator, but the air temperatures down there are 65 pretty much year round. So that does keep it in check. But out here in the shop, I've got the active cooling on the CW. I think it's a 5000. It's older than the 5200, but it's just basically the same one. So that's my big thing with the CO2s is I don't want to get any of that contamination in there, because the first tube I had, it got gummed up and it was never the same after that. I got it cleaned out and got it working, but ended up replacing the tube after all anyway.
Yeah, the Brian's asking if Brandy's going to be retiring. It's going to be a little while there, Brian. But yeah, I've used the bucket. I used a 5-gallon bucket, and like you said, it's in a shop environment. The best I could do was just drill some holes in the top of it, run the tubes through the holes, and then tape them up with duct tape. Like that was legit the best way I could come up with trying to seal it. And I did put a little antifreeze in there as well as, like you're saying, with a little Clorox to try to stave down any kind of algae or whatever. Mm-hmm. But shortly thereafter, I did finally buy myself the little cheap Monport. They call it a chiller, but we all know it's basically just a radiator it's a fan with a water pump. That's really it, and a radiator. And it worked really well. A friend of mine that has a bigger Monport, I wound up letting him have it when I quit using the K40 or M40. But most of the machines that I have now, the P2, the OhmTech, the Hurricane, all those machines, they have their own built-in chillers or coolers, which is handy, especially for a desktop machine. That way you don't have the extra hoses and all that, and that extra chiller sitting to the side.
These strange things brings up a good point. And I know a lot of people get turned off about the fees on Etsy and such, but they take care of the tax. They take care of a lot of things for you. They take care of website security. They take care of web hosting. The file, I mean, it's not hard for us to drop a file up there. Whereas if I do it on my own website, I got to worry about file management and fulfillment, and it didn't go through to an email and things like that. Now, people still reach out to us for some help on some of those things, but that's kind of what you're paying the fees for. I don't want to spend a lot of time managing digital online sales. And so Etsy, yes, they take a cut, but I'm paying for that convenience. Kind of like Clack paid for a pretty nice lawn mowing robot to save him some time.
I'm just hoping I don't live to regret that one. So far, so good.
Sounds like you will be invited.
I hope so.
Then he laughs about it, so I don't know.
I hope so, because I've got some extra sick time that I've got to get rid of between now and 94 days. And so, especially if you have some kind of like therapeutic, I don't know, scenery up there or something, maybe I could take a mental health day and go for a drive and use up some of that sick time. I used one day of it Friday because I was just sick of going to work. And so I called in sick on that day and stayed home and played with my lawnmower.
Well, I'd have to take about 4 sick days.
Yeah. Well, I'm not far. What I planned on doing with Greg, and I've actually talked to Brandy about it and see if she wanted to go with me if it doesn't conflict. Now, band season is rapidly approaching, but me and Brandy were actually just going to make a trip up there. Spend one night in a motel or something somewhere nearby, and then just make a day out of it, and then come back that night. That's kind of the plan. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
If it doesn't conflict with band camps and stuff like that.
Steve Massey is asking, is it possible to engrave on river rock? I have an F1 not ultra and a 20-watt we create. It's really going to depend on the rock. And be careful buying river rock online from resellers in China. Sometimes it's not really rock. It's something made to be rock, look like rock. But I've had some luck with some various rocks around here, which is actually kind of fun. Now on a 10-watt or 20-watt diode, depending on the rock, you might get a little bit of ablation into the surface, but a lot of times what you're doing is just kind of cooking it a bit and it'll turn a little molten. But it can be kind of fun to play around with that. So some of them you'll be able to engrave into, others they'll just turn molten. Either way, you can have a lot of fun just trying to make fake fossils and such. I know a lot of people will engrave names and such, but if you're bored and you want to play around, just throw some fossils on there and then take them back to the local swim hole and
oh my goodness.
But it's one of those things, yeah, you got to do some playing with, and some will work better than others, and the blue diode on some lighter ones will work to get a little bit of ablation, but a lot of times it just kind of gets that kind of molten look to it and almost bubbles up rather than etching in.
Yeah.
Oh, and Gray Viking brings up a good point before we jump off that. Make sure they're dry. If there's moisture in there and you heat them up, they can
explode.
They can fracture explosively.
Yes. Same goes for like concrete. Also, if you heat concrete up too fast, it has water in it. The water turns to steam, builds up intense pressure in the little pockets, and then goes pop. I learned that when I was playing around melting aluminum recycling cans, making ingots out of them and stuff. And I was in a hurry to use my refractory mix, like little furnace that I had built, and I thought it was dry, like completely, but it was not. And that thing got up to temp, and it was made in an old metal air compressor tank that I had cut with the cutting torch and like made of the. And that son of a gun, when it cracked or popped, I swear it jumped 6 inches off the ground, and it probably weighed 150 pounds. But it cracks so violently that it hopped up off the ground. I was like, oh my gosh, I thought it had exploded and killed me.
Yeah. Any other galvo lasers on the horizon that you could talk about, like the Rolly automation, like the Galvomatic? So the follow up to that. Not that I haven't heard of any.
No.
There was one. I don't know that it's a Galvomatic.
That Excel lasers, a Galvo gantry thing, and then the Lasermatic, the Galvomatic or whatever with Rolly.
Yeah, there was. I'm gonna try to see if I can. There was one that popped up in my feed at the new laser company, but it looks like there were just still module-based diodes. But it had like the dual cameras for alignment and such, so it looked like they were some improvements over your typical ones. I just can't remember the name of that.
Yeah,
that laser right offhand. But if I come across it, I'll Alien Cell. That's what it was.
Yeah,
didn't mean to do that.
Robbie, I just dropped a video earlier on the preliminary, but it's surprising me on the heels. I'm not going to call it just yet, but it's actually doing pretty good. I've got some really steep ones that I don't expect it to work on, but so far it's holding its own. Ooh. It's doing better than I expected. Let's put it that way. With it being just 2-wheel drive, basically, I was not expecting it to do as well. Yeah, Greg's like I said, there's a lot of people have issues with Etsy, and it is what it is. It has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. So does I just renewed my web page, $550. So I mean, that's a big chunk of money that I have to pay to keep a web page up and going, and all the stuff that's associated with it. So, if you only use Etsy, you don't have to fool with that. And I don't have a lot of the add-ons that you would need if you were selling directly from your website. I don't have those on mine. But my renewal still, like I said, 500 and some change. Because I thought my darn debit card had been compromised when I saw it hit my bank. I wasn't paying attention because, I guess I just deleted the notification and didn't pay no attention. And then I saw that hit on my bank account, and I'm like, oh, and it was my webpage renewal. I'm like, well, at least it's done now, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's pros and cons both ways.
Well, and like anything, you got to try to differentiate yourself. If you're doing what everybody else is doing, they're just going to go with the cheapest one. But yeah, for digital files, especially, that's where I find it very convenient for lack of hassle and all that. And those are, I mean, yeah, there are other people out there with similar files, but we're also kind of feeding primarily a lot of our sales through our YouTube channel. So it's a little bit different than non-content creator usage. So
yeah, and like I said, that's about all I do as far as through Etsy is digital files anyway. Most of my actual like legit sales are local and or semi-local. I have people drive from counties, surrounding counties, but most of my physical products are from Facebook. So they see me on Facebook, they see the pictures, they do some research, and go from there. They see something, somebody's like, oh, where'd you get that? And they're like, oh, the Clack Shack, and they send them to the Facebook page, and it comes in that way. So advertisement, even if you do have an Etsy page, if you don't have your own way of advertising, it's better. Etsy's advertisement is better than none. So that's my opinion on the matter. Let's see. These Strange Things says, yeah, that is what I tell people. If you want to do good on Etsy, make a product that no one else is making. I have a few things that no one else has. Now, I will tell you this. There's a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of softwares and all this kind of stuff that people use. If you start selling a product and it starts selling pretty good, you're going to get some imitators pretty quick. People are going to start taking that product and putting their spin on it. And the next thing you know, it's going to be a very popular item, and you're going to have a lot of competition. But that's when you have to pivot again and again and again. And it's a never ending battle. I mean, look at McDonald's and Burger King. They've been battling it out for years. One of them will come out with a chicken sandwich, then the other one comes out with a chicken sandwich. I mean, that is the nature of business, is you have to come out with the next big thing, or at least a different variation. And a lot of times it doesn't have to be a new idea. It can be an old idea that you've reinvented, that, everybody's quit making this because it was like 3 years ago. And all of a sudden you bring it back and it's like, wow, this thing sells good. So that's another thing, is a lot of times, me and Steve have talked about it. A lot of our videos that do good are videos that we've done 2-3 years ago. We just put an updated, do it and update it to fit today's times, and they're still good to play. So you just gotta, like I said, you gotta strategize.
Yep. Jared Lyon bought the Eufy printer. Congratulations. I want to stock up on some supplies. Should I buy sublimation surface work, or needs to be rougher surface? So the stock hard ink works best on a non-slippery surface, non-smooth surface. So if it has like a texture to it, you're probably okay. But if it's like a ceramic mug that's been glazed, it'll stick to it, but it's going to be fairly easy to rub off. Now they have come out with some treatments that help that adhesion to that, and so that's something you can play with. But if you're wanting to have more success, I would look for more of like the non-glazed, maybe a slight texture to it. I actually just ordered a few different non-glazed ceramic coasters, so they're nice and white. And they have a nice texture to it. They'll even have some absorption qualities to it without having that glaze on it. But they're kind of meant for like craft things. Actually, one of them I didn't read the description too well. All I saw was 35 pieces. Well, it was 12 coasters and a whole art kit. So I went back to read the description and said, well, bad on me. But yeah, I would look for things that aren't like a super shiny, smooth surface.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I can't speak to the Eufy guys. I would love to, but Steve is the only guy in this live show tonight that's cool enough to get a Eufy. So I'm just you're gonna take his word for it. I can't fact check it. So there it is. Aldrich Custom Crafts said evening. He's a bit late due to some hive inspections. Growing pains went from 2 hives to 7 in a couple of weekends ago. It happens like that, Aldrich. You literally can like expand your bee farm throughout the summer and like quadruple the number of hives. Sometimes accidentally. I've had that myself. I probably need to be splitting some now, but I'm fixing to try to draw some honey. Went and bought jars and buckets today. So
Dark Force made said over the past 2 weeks, it found good sales cutting catch-all trays and coasters from pallet wood with the Reno CNC and adding some laser engravings for finishing. That's exactly, that, especially if you can tie them into some local, regional, or an event going on in your area, or you run the risk of, you don't want it to be like the duck race of 2025, but unless you got some sales on that. But yeah, that does go well, and especially like you're using pallet wood, crank a few things out on that CNC, and then to top it off with a custom engraving. Yeah, that's you get that process down, and you can make some pretty decent money per the work involved on those.
There's DD Diggs. I don't know. D Diggs says they've been bugging you about the Kickstarter on Eufy. Got an email yesterday saying the order was fulfilled, and I'll get the machine in July. So that's good.
Very cool. I'm excited to see what else. Now the more people are going to have them out there, it'll be interesting to see what people come up with.
Yep. Tim Arthur says I was watching some other reviews, and it looks like the mower that Clack has picked is highly regarded by what I've seen in your videos. I'm looking at it too. Yeah, the only things, like I said, I mentioned the only 2 things that I have found is the app, and then of course, like, don't use it during the heat of the day, because like today it got so hot it shut itself down, and I thought it would cool off and start back up, but I waited a couple of hours and it didn't. So I had to like reboot the machine to get it to go away. And so I emailed the company, or at least the best contact I could find for them, to ask them if they were aware of those issues and if that was something that was being addressed in a firmware update or an app update. And I'm waiting to hear back, because like I said, this is not a company that I'm dealing with. I bought this thing and like legit had to go to their contact us page and try to find an email that way. But yeah, it is not cheap, but I didn't have to climb up on top of my house and drill a freaking RTK antenna to my house. I don't have to have a Cat 5 cable, ran to a pole in my yard or whatever. So it has some advantages over some of the competition when it comes to that. But yes, it's not cheap.
Yeah. Jared is asking, what about the G-Week G3 or G-Wee? I've heard it both ways. It's a dual laser. I saw pop. Yeah, that's not in the same vein as like the Galvo gantry ones or the others, but it's similar to the X-Tool metalworking machine they came out with, and I think OhmTech has some similar ones as well. There's more of those popping up where they're like a high-powered CO2. And sometimes they're a laser welder. And then in some cases, like the G-Wee, I believe it actually is almost a dual source, if I remember right. So there are definitely some advancements and changes. Fortunately, some of them, like those, are a little pricey. But it's nice to see some of that technology changing.
Oh, okay. Looks like Greg sent me a picture. Well, he's got some sticks going up for some walls. So hopefully it won't be too long.
There you go.
I just saw your message, Greg. I stay behind in the comment section. I go down a hole and it takes me forever to climb back out. Well, actually, I said that and I'm about caught up.
TJ Michaels asking, gentlemen, do you know of any MOPAs going on sale anytime soon? I mean, there's Prime Days coming up, and a lot of companies will run their own sales along with that, so you might be able to get something on that. I haven't heard explicitly from some of the ones I've dealt with. Of course, I haven't had a MOPA myself, but in the Galvo styles, like OMTech,
I knew that was coming.
Marker and Onport and such. Some of them are maybe having just general sales, but I don't know. Have you heard anything?
No, I know. Here recently, Monport was. I don't know what the deal was. They were pushing that new style machine that they've got because they sent out a few of them to some folks, and they tried getting me to take one, but it was not something I was interested in.
Oh, you're being a MOPA snob now. You got too many MOPAs.
No, it was. I want to say it was a 30 watt, and I'm like, I've already got. You know what I mean? I only need so many. Let me see what it was. I think it was there. Maybe it wasn't a MOPA, but I'm thinking it was. Yeah, that's gonna be it right there. Fiber laser sale, which now keep in mind, there's always something. They're always on sale. Some of these places. But yeah, it appears it's not like a price slasher sale, but yeah, it appears that Monport is having a sale on some of their MOPAs, like $500-$600. So they're still expensive.
Yeah. Now they don't have a MOPA, but should mention that if you're looking at an Atom Stack machine, they've got some Independence Day sale going on, but they've given us an extra 5% off coupon that's supposed to stack with their other deals. I don't know how long it's going to go. I did ask how long it would be, but if you use code ClackSteve on atomstack.com, you might get an extra 5% off. So
yeah, that was it. Matter of fact, we were supposed to mention that tonight, weren't we?
Well, I just did.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what we did not pick we did not pick the phrase. By the way, I just want to clear that up. We did not pick that. But it's literally,
I think they went with age before beauty.
It's literally Clack Steve. Like that is the phrase.
But yeah, they I haven't looked too closely at what their deals are, but like I say, it's supposed to be an extra 5% above everything else. And so just thought I'd throw it out there. I don't know how long it's been going on, but if you are looking at them and we're going to place an order, might as well use that code and try to use one of our links too.
Yeah.
So that might, I don't know. Sometimes they have a default discount on ours as well.
No. There's possibly some cool stuff coming out pretty soon. And so hopefully July and August, I know of 2 or 3 different manufacturers that's supposed to be coming out with something decent. And I'm just waiting to hear back from them. Some of the timelines keep getting pushed back because, things don't always go according to plan, which I would rather them push the time frame back than to try to push out a product that's not ready. That's just my personal opinion. I've had my experience with products that weren't quite ready, and they're very frustrating.
Yeah.
Yep. Steve can vouch for that.
Yep. Me too. Sometimes it's just a QC issue because you'll have success and I won't, or vice versa. So, but there are others where across the board, they get rushed out.
Miles is asking, is it contagious? I don't know. We didn't pick it. We were just giving it voluntarily. We didn't ask for it. It was just like, hey, they were like, hey, we have this if y'all want to use it for the 4th of July sales. And we're like, okay, cool.
Yep.
So there you go. We don't even know which one of us gets credit for it.
Either.
It might not even be either one of us. Yeah, so make sure you use one of our affiliate links too, because that code may it may not do anything. or
Yeah.
maybe it splits. I don't know.
I don't know. But if it saves you all money and you're looking at ordering something, hey, happy to share that.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. That's a discount though. That's right.
Yeah, it's a 5% discount. So, and they said it stacks with their other deals. So,
That's cool. Gray Viking says Clack Steve sounds like an OnlyFans site.
Well, times are getting a little tough. We're trying to that extra revenue stream. No. Kevin Becker, am I teasing a new product review with the package over the shoulder? I mean, I'll probably put out a video on it, but this is a me purchase. This is sponsored by Visa. But I did take advantage of Bamboo's current sale to pick up the P1S combo with not the new AMS, but the original. I don't know, the original AMS that works with that one. So yeah, I just brought it out here because it's easier to unbox and work without here. Better lighting. I can walk around the table before I probably drag it back downstairs into my office with the other ones. But yeah, you'll probably see some of it on here, and I don't know, maybe I'll throw up a spur of the moment live and unbox it. We'll test it together or something. But yeah, it's nothing secret, nothing fancy, just a purchase I made and dragged it out here so it wasn't sitting in our living room.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like me and my robot. It was like my grass cutting. That was a trying to get more free time purchase that I'm trying to twist into a review video. So I figure if I'm gonna buy stuff, I might as well try to incorporate it, especially in my other channel over there that is struggling to get monetized. So if you haven't, guys, shameless plug. Go check out the other channel over there. I'll drop a link. If you haven't, go check it out. I mean, it'd be a cool thing to do.
Sounds like Cody's excited for a party at Greg's as well.
Oh, is Cody coming to Greg's?
I don't know. Maybe he's just excited that there's going to be one there.
Oh, I was going to say, if Cody's coming, hey, that would be a big deal there.
Cody is a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, would he be driving if he comes?
I mean, he's a big deal. He's not tall deal, but well, here's an interesting question from Gray Viking. Boys, so if you were kings for the day, what would you like to see on the DIY market as the end-all be-all combo laser setup? Galvo plus diode, speed, and can cut. So what's our? I guess he's asking what would we love to see the most in a new laser?
I would like to see them get away from these heavy, huge heads on the tops of the machines and go with a fiber cable design to where the source is actually like behind in the back of the machine or something like that. And instead of having this big module with this fan and stuff on top of it inside the enclosure, you would simply have a fiber optic, tube, so to speak. And then it would direct right at the end, kind of like a Galvo does, but it would direct straight down onto the material. And that way too, you could technically take that one machine and you could have it 455 nanometers. You could have it 1064 nanometer, and you could literally just undock the power supply from the machine, the source from the machine, and then change the focal length. And you could run basically, you could have interchangeable lenses at the top so that you could have, a really fine focus, kind of like you do with CO2 machines. You could adjust all of that there, but to be able to, that way, like I said, you could order this. It would be the same machine, but you could say, hey, I want this in a 60 watt fiber, or I want this in a 60 watt CO2, or I want this in a 60 watt diode. I think that would be awesome. And like I said, I know it can be done because that's basically what XL Laser is doing, except they've got that Galvo on the front of theirs. But I don't really care about the Galvo because, but I need a machine also that has I'm going to need about 1,000 millimeter by 500 millimeter work area, basically like a 2 foot by 4 foot work area with a 6-inch exhaust fan, not a 4-inch, and adjustable air assist. That would be like if I could design a machine, it would be awesome. It would be orange, but it would be awesome. It would. That may be expensive. I ain't gonna lie, because cheap and good, not necessarily the same thing all the time.
Right. Yeah.
But I just think we can get away from having that big, heavy, just module there. I think we can. We've proven that it can be done using fiber optic cables or whatever. And I think we need to move on towards that, because right now, I mean, you get these machines like this A70, the modules that big around and that tall, you can only move that so fast because you got so much mass having to stop and go back the other way. If you took that module, bolted it to the back of the machine somewhere, and had a fiber optic cable coming up to the front, you could make that thing go so much faster, and it would reduce wear on all of the drivetrain, as well as give you a speed boost that you could use. So that would be that would be my thing.
Yeah, I mean, I like that idea, even if it's not necessarily interchangeable sources, which would be nice, but not to say that there is a flexible fiber cable that can transmit all of those properly. But yeah, I would agree. Anything to lighten up the head and make it more accurate, to be also faster, would be nice. I don't know. I feel like the mixture of Galvo and gantry is interesting if they can get the cutting right. I mean, I get the fast engraving and how it can move to a quadrant and, basically slice your thing into certain sections. That's great, and it improves the engraving. But if it can't cut quality and speed, that's a concern. So I don't know. I mean, I'm waiting to see how that goes with both of them. I would like to see. I don't trust cameras yet. I would love to see a setup with dual cameras or more.
Just a three, I think, would be the magic number.
That it was dead on accurate. That would be one of the things I think would help out, especially new people coming to the hobby or the business, is if they could trust that reliably. That would be huge. So outside of that, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's I do a lot more probably cutting than engraving, I would say. And maybe part of that would just be better software algorithms to make the adjustments to the engravings easier to do. I mean, LightBurn and XCS have come a long ways in that. Yeah, I don't know. That is a really good question to think about. Is what do I feel is missing, or what would I would want? So I'll have to think about that more. Maybe report back next week if something comes to mind.
Yeah, he's gonna be sitting down and drew one up in Tinkercad. He'll have a 3D model printed for you.
Yeah.
Robert says, I was wondering if either one of you have a tip for jig design. I'm using a converted bed slinger printer for my laser, so I've got to attach to either the bed or the honeycomb. I'm debating a board or tabs. I've built quite a few jigs. Basically, you just have to have a physical point that you can reference to a computerized point. That's it. It doesn't matter how you get there. If you want to drill a hole, mark things, use double-sided tape, whatever you do, as long as you have a physical reference point that you know where it is in the software, you're good. And there's thousands of ways to do that. I've probably done most all of them. I like my little jig kits for my big machines, but now some of these machines that I have, I can't use them because of other things. And so like my P2, I've actually came up with a way of setting up jigs in the P2 without having to do anything to it or modify it. I just use painter's tape and index. So it's you never know.
Craig says Cody will come. It's mandatory.
It's mandatory then.
Oh,
make sure you fill out your expense sheet, Cody.
Let's see.
The strange thing says big orange laser. Everyone would think it was made by Aspen Tree Expert Company. I used to work there. That's actually where I first started wearing my orange. Some of y'all know that. Some of y'all didn't.
Sim the attorney was interested until you said it was orange.
Well, I mean, we could offer it in a couple different colors. If we're going to make it, we're going to make it expensive. I mean, it's going to be customizable. And it's going to be to where you can either have it open frame, or if you want, you can have the panels and everything would bolt to it. I mean, it would be highly component based, where you could just add things to it.
I mean, so Dark Force Mate here, it's kind of hitting it close for me. An S1-ish machine with pinpoint accurate cameras for batching small things, 20 by 30 build area, and 12 inches deep with stellar exhaust. I mean, I use my S1 a lot down in my basement shop. When using that the 2-point or the multi-point alignment that they've got going, it's really accurate. So I trust it that way, and I agree. I'd like a little, stretch that work area a little bit. But yeah, I don't know that I'm looking for. It's probably because I don't know what that would be. It's kind of like what they're playing with Galvomatic and such. Is like, okay, let's put a Galvo head on a diode and a gantry. It's probably something that maybe we're not thinking about, and if we did, maybe we could make some money.
Yeah. Well, I've always said that the Achilles heel to these lasers, the diode lasers especially, is heat and heat management and dissipating heat. And I've never really understood why anybody would think it's a good idea to put cooling fins and a cooling fan inside a high dust area when there are options to have it outside of that area. And that's why I think the fiber cable would be a way to go, is because you could put the source outside of the enclosure, therefore cutting down on those cooling fins, picking up all the dust and stuff from the inside of the machine, and make it more serviceable as far as you could get by longer without having to clean that, because it would be outside. I also would build it, why not? If you're building something that has cooling fins in it like that, why not add a filter of some type, like air conditioners have, have that designed into it, so that instead of having to worry about the dust getting sucked into the machine, you just change out the filter. And from a company's perspective, now you have a filter that you can continuously sell, and as long as your product holds up, that's like residual income.
Well, it better work better than some of the fume extractor filters, or people are not going to be happy buying those every 8 hours.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about more like a HEPA filter, like would go in your shop vac or something.
Yeah,
something that would be, just slide it in, slide it out, even if it's washable for that matter.
Well, it just needs to be an affordable consumable, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah,
but yeah, and that goes along with having the right exhaust. If you've got the airflow moving right, you're minimizing the effect of that dust and vapors getting onto those fins. So, but so many of these are kind of aimed at a smaller form factor. They don't want to have a taller machine with all that dead space underneath it, and they don't want to have to pay to ship something like that either. But
yeah,
that's the traditional laser design. Was it was a downdraft. The exhaust was down below it, but you got into these benchtop, tabletop devices, and there's nowhere for it to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Like I said, it's evolving. I've seen some good changes coming, and maybe they'll continue. So we'll see.
Yep. Galvo and gantry sound cool, but sounds breakable. Yeah, and that's one of my concerns with moving my F1 around to shows, is mirrors like that on gimbals. They don't like to move on their own without being powered, and they can. So it wouldn't necessarily take much to break some of those, or get them out of whack. I've had that with some of the gimbals on my drones and such. Is they generally have a bracket that holds it in place when it's in transport, and if you forget to put that on, and it bounces a few states across in the motorhome, and you get there and you go, oh wow, it's broken.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
you
I
would
try to,
think they would have some type of interlock on those
yeah.
galvos where like it would hold itself still.
So when I travel with the F1, the original one, I generally put it in the cab of the van and usually more in the center, so it's not like getting as bounced around as much. So
Brad's custom board says, which rotary do you have for the Atom stack? Well, I've had, I think most every rotary they've had, but the best one is that R1. Is it R1 Pro or R1 is the best one in my opinion. The new one that they came out with, they went backwards on that thing. I know that you can't use the R1 on some of the newer machines without, jacking them up and stuff like that and raising them up with spacers or whatnot. But to me, I don't like them as good as I do the old original R1 because it was just that thing was built like a tank and was plenty big. I think Steve's grabbing his. Mine's in my enclosure. I can go over there and get it, but yeah, that's it.
yeah, this one is really nice. I think this is technically the Atom Stack Maker version, but it's the same R1.
Yeah.
And you don't. I think what the R1 Pro comes with the rollers or something like that. You don't need that. Just the base unit. As a matter of fact, I just got in recently Marker's version of this. It's very close, and except for it has on the ring where you spin this to lock it. It actually has set screws, little thumb screws that you tighten, and it locks that in place, which is kind of nice. So Marker did find a way to try to improve these a little bit.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't like the last machine that they built as far as like the one that came with the Hurricanes, got the plastic base and stuff. I felt like that was a step back. Now I know there's some machines that you have to use that one with them, but I don't care for it. I like that one that Steve just had in his hand right there.
Yeah, and there are number ones like it. Have it here. Yeah, I'm not sure where it is. Sculpfun has one very similar to that style. IKEA used to have. Well, I don't know. They still have theirs. IKEA still has theirs. It's Aether. That's the one.
Aether was the one that, like, basically it was exactly the same. Just had different labels.
But yeah, the R1 from Atom Stack is, and most of those will work with any laser that has the 4-pin. It's just depending on what their driver is, and you might have to calibrate steps per rotation based off their driver and such. But
yeah,
and then get the adapter cable, you got a weird pin out or something.
Yeah.
So Jack's saying you can't send plasma through a fiber cable because he converted his long mill CNC router to plasma.
Yeah. Well, you can't, and they're like a UV. I don't think you can. Well, I guess somehow they're doing it, but I don't know. There's some lights. I'm sure there's challenges to being able to do that with it, but I feel like even if you had to have it to where, that fiber optic cable had to be replaced when the supply was. I mean, you know what I mean? Instead of having it attached to the source, you attach it to the machine or vice versa. It's got to be better than having all that weight if they're slinging around like it does, and protecting it from itself. But we'll see. Like I said, I'm curious to see what's coming. I've got my ear to the ground. I know of a few things that are coming that I think are going to be pretty cool, but I'm waiting for the next big innovation, and I don't know that we've seen that yet. I think it's coming.
Oh, I'm sure. It's just whether, sometimes there's small innovations, then there's that big leap. So
yeah, and I would dare to say that X-Tool's probably coming out with another laser this year, because I've heard several of the people that are in the know, because I don't consider myself to be in the know since I've turned their contract down. But I've heard several people that I do know that are in with them still pretty tight. And I've kind of heard bits and pieces of, when the new laser. It's like they know, but they're not saying. But you can just tell by the way they're talking that there's one coming. So
right.
So I'm curious to see what that is, because X-Tool has in the past been one of the ones that, when those big jumps were made, they were usually, in the forefront of those jumps. So kind of curious to see.
Well, I know they're working on their U.S. Location in California.
Yeah.
And I think they're opening that pretty soon. And I think I maybe heard that they may be showing off a new machine at that event. So, but if it's a laser or something else, because they've been good at bringing out something else all year. But we'll see. But I would think we will find out about that sooner or later.
Greg's asking, why would a selected line not let me change it, convert to path, or add a stitch hole along it? It's a single line. I would say because it's closed, but if it's a single line, I don't know. I've never tried doing that with single line, with just a line. I've always used a shape. So I don't know if it would be a requirement that it be a shape. I haven't tried that one.
I'm just playing here. It's just a straight line though. I don't know that LightBurn's going to consider that a path, because most things you'd be able to manipulate by rotating them, versus if you curve it. Let's see about that. No, if you curve it, it still doesn't do convert to path. That's a good question.
Let's see here. Let me try something. My brains are working here. Stand by.
Meanwhile, anybody know any good jokes? Yeah, I'm getting the same thing, that the convert to path is grayed out on just the lines, even if I have it be like a curve.
All right. Is that exactly what your question was? But it might work for your need. So let me show you what we come up with here. Well, actually, let's do it this way, because it's so much easier to see that way. Share current screen, entire screen one, share. All right. So what I ended up doing, as you can see this right here, this is a line. It's just a line, or at least it appears. It's actually not a line. It's a rectangle, but it's a rectangle that's 100 millimeters wide and only 0.001 tall, which means that even though it's a rectangle, it's half the thickness of most of your diode laser beams. And so it'll actually let you convert it to a path and all that. Now, I don't know if that will help you with what you're trying to accomplish, but you could just make it into a really, really tiny rectangle. Of course, you may want to mess with your power and speed settings, because depending on what you're doing, that if you're using it as a tool line, it's not going to matter. If you're just trying to use this right here as if I can get my tool, if you're just using this as a tool line and you're wanting to take and put shapes along said tool line, then it's not going to matter what speed and power it is. So let's see here. Convert. Wait a minute. Convert it to path first. Well, it's already a path. What am I doing? What in the world? I have lost my. I done lost it. All right, give me a minute here.
You're looking for The copy along path.
Yeah, where is this? It's have they moved the darn thing?
Should be under arrange. No, middle, lower. Keep going. Up. Third way up.
Oh shoot, there it is. Oh, good thing it wasn't a snake. But yeah, so you can maybe do it like, which I didn't have it on there, did I? Let me get it close to it. I was gonna say I looked for it a while ago. They've added some stuff. So yeah, you could I guess it would kinda sorta work that way. But it's gonna still look at it as a square instead of a line. But I mean, same basic principle. So if you took this and like aligned it with that line there, now you can do it. So yeah, doing the tiny the tiny increment rectangle will work. But if you look, even though this looks like it's one line, it's actually two. And so all I did instead of using a line is I used a rectangle because I run into this, same thing, just like you said, it's not letting you, like if you just do like one line from point to point, and then you try to change that to a path or whatever, it's not going to let you convert it. But let me see if this will work. Oh, it'll let me copy it along the line. Huh. So I don't know. It is letting me do it on the line too. It's not letting me convert it to a path because it's already a path.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably already since it's not a closed object, it just views it as a path.
Yeah, maybe that's why there is no convert to path, because that's literally all it is. Okay, yeah, that was a whole bunch of work for nothing. But I should have known, but I don't ever use just single lines very often, unless I'm just like cutting material up or something. Sometimes, like if I'm cutting some scrap material, because sometimes you go through cleaning stuff up, I'll use a straight line and just cut a sheet in half. So.
Well, there, we all learned something.
Yeah, but I guess that's it. I guess it's just because it's already just a path. That's why it's not letting you convert it to a path, which totally makes sense now that I think about it. Oh, yep. Anyway, well, there you go. It works. And I lost copy the path.
Well, you just made a more complex way to do it. There's a question from RS Fight. I got a request to make a last name sign in a fancy font for a wedding. The name is too long for my 24-inch bed. Is there a way to split the name and cut it as two pieces, then join it together? Yeah, I mean, there's a couple ways to do that. Depending on your work area, you could try the cut and print option, where you cut part of the sign, you move your material, index it right, and complete the cut. Which, if you haven't done that before,
practice with scraps.
Yeah. Otherwise, it depends on how. I mean, they're going to see a join any other way, and so depending on if you can make that blend into the font somehow, you can try to do an overlap joint. Or I did a video where I made an outline of an airplane. And I was able to make the break point. And so I made it larger than the bed size. But I made the break point at a natural point on the airplane where it just looked like a panel line. And then I just glued it together. So that's a video from way back, probably 2.5, 3 years ago now. But if you can find a natural point, maybe in the font where that glue line, which is going to be faint, or if you're painting it or something anyway, you can probably hide it that way. Yeah, you can just I would try to make it in some sort of indexable way, whether it's an arrow or almost a pulsal piece, or even a curve isn't necessarily great unless you have other reference points, but something that's going to help realign it. You can manually add those to break your object apart, but you just have to think about the end result. Is it going to be visually obstructing the item or not?
Yeah, if you're gonna make something that's too big for your bed, and the best way, in my opinion, is to do a two-piece, like 2-layered glue up, so that you can like cut one half short and then long, and then the other half long and then short, and have it to where they fit together, like Steve said, and have like a hidden glue line somewhere. But yeah, I've got one right now that I've got to make. Matter of fact, that's why if you look over here on hang on, you see right there beside the dog that's passed out, you see those 4-foot by 4-foot pieces of plywood right there. I've got a sign that I've got to make that's too big for the lasers. They're wanting it 36 inches overall width, and they're very stuck on 36 inches. Even though I can do like 32 and a half in my laser, they want it 36. So what I've done is I'm going to make the background on the CNC using the downcut 1/8 Jenny bit. I'm going to make the background piece, and then I'm going to take and mark where the letters go for the text. And I'm cutting the text with a laser, and I'm going to glue it just like I normally would. But normally I do both pieces in the laser, but that's going to give me my overall outside dimensions is going to be over 36 inches. But yet my letters can still be cut on the laser, which is a lot easier cutting those real fine fonts and stuff. It's a lot easier on the laser than it is a CNC, because you don't have to worry about tabs or, typically if I'm doing some of this pre-finished plywood on the CNC, I used to do tabs. I've gotten to where now I like using like a 1/4 millimeter or, 0.1 millimeter onion peel rather than tabs, because then I can just literally take this box blade cutter right here, and I can just and cut that little onion peel, and it works just as good as tabs, but you don't have that problem of the veneer peeling off when you try to cut those tabs off or whatever. So it's tricky. Sometimes you got to get creative to be able to make stuff bigger than what you're used to, because my materials that I use in my big machine is 17 and a half by 35, and because it's only an 850 millimeter work area. So that's as big as you can possibly get it. So
yeah, I mean, I think if you could do the same thing, like do the layered sign like you're saying, if you can make the background larger, it's going to be easier to maybe hide the join line there with the letters over top. So you cut individual letters out like you're saying and glue them on. It's probably going to look better overall. Gives a little kind of you just have to kind of take your font and offset it X amount. Yeah. And then find a spot where you can join it that maybe it's mostly covered up by a letter, or better yet, if it can be painted and then the other letters glued on, then you should be able to hide it pretty easily. So, but yeah, the tiling / print and cut thing is always an option if you've got the space to work with it and some way to index how far you're moving and your start and stop points to make it one piece. That's where a pass through kind of thing works. But
yeah, see, this is the one I'm talking about that I'm making. And what I've done is, this is the overall size right here is the 36 inches for the outside cut. That I'm going to export over to the CNC and do that on the CNC. And then once I do that, I'm going to take this text out of this, and I'm just going to take basically and cut these letters and then glue them together to the backboard. So even if I have to go in here and do some node editing right here, as long as I make it clean enough that I can stick these back together, then I could take these apart if I wanted to and resize it over there. So, but yeah, because there's another thing you got to remember too, is just because they say they want the sign to be 36 inches, like Steve said, that just increase that offset a little bit. The text will be a little bit smaller, but once you get this text where it fits in this work area, you can cut it like this one right here. Like I said, I'm going I'm gonna have to finagle that, and that S is gonna have to be done a little differently, but I can make it happen. And that's what the sign's supposed to look like. I done sent them. I done got it proofed up as far as like through this. So I've got to make that in the next few days because the wedding is on the 8th, I think they said. So I've got to have that guy done this week. So there you go. That's what that plywood right there by the sleeping dog is for. Biscuit, you all right? Hey, Biscuit.
Dead to the world.
Biscuit. That dog sleeps so hard. All right. Let's see what happens. Stand by. It's going to be loud, guys. What are you doing, big boy? That was me clapping. I didn't hurt him. It just scared him. You sleep heavy, buddy. You sleep heavy.
Great. I actually am growing it out a little bit more again. But it's a balance between what I can tolerate and how much maintenance I want to do on it. so we'll see.
You on outside now that I woke you up?
It's got to investigate what that sound was. And I'll let you read this one because Radu's doing his best dad joke impression.
The Norwegian military has started putting QR codes on all their ships. That way they pull into port. You can. Yeah, I saw somebody shared that somewhere the other day. Oh.
Yeah, Gray Viking. It was the F4U Corsair video, and yes, it is arguably my favorite airplane.
Oh, I've got to make another sign too that I thought about.
Yes, Radu, I did ask for a joke, so you came through.
Yeah, I got to make another sign too that I came up with today. I was out there in the yard and I was thinking about all these because I had for whatever reason Amazon sent 3 trucks with 3 packages this weekend. Like Saturday, I had 3 different trucks show up with 3 different packages. I'm like, y'all aren't saving fossil fuels like doing this, but whatever. So I got to thinking to myself, I need a robot crossing sign so that nobody runs over my lawnmower because even though it does have obstacle avoidance, it doesn't have side scan sonar. So it could get clipped as it's crossing the driveway.
One of those big flags on it,
Well, I'm afraid to put anything that sticks up on the top of it because, it's got that dome of the spinning LiDAR.
Well,
I'd even thought about I was going to make like some ears and a tail and put on it and make it look like an animal running around my yard. But I'm like, that's going to mess with the LiDAR.
Can you just get one of those slow children at play signs?
Well, I mean, I guess, but I think I'm gonna make me a robot crossing sign. I think I may borrow like a silhouette of R2D2 and make me a sign out of that plastic on the CNC and just have it say robot crossing. I just think it'd be cool. That way people would understand, because if I put a picture of my mower, nobody's going to know what that is. So I need to actually do like a familiar robot like R2D2.
Well, but then they'll be looking for that, not your little flat vacuum cleaner.
I'm hoping that they see that if they're looking for robots.
Well, let's see.
Put a clear dowel with an orange flag. I don't know that there is a clear with LiDAR because I'm sneakingly suspicious of it being very close to the wavelength of infrared because like I can't see the LiDAR on my vacuum unless I use my indoor security cameras and they're on night mode. You can see you can see the laser swirling around the room. So I'm thinking I don't know that clear would be clear.
So Tim's got a question: is LightBurn a good alternative to Corel Laser?
I've never used Corel, and I've seen people that did, and I'm not a fan.
Yeah, so the first laser I had did have Corel drivers, and I haven't used Corel Draw in many years. Used to be a big software I used a lot, but I used RDWorks and then moved to LightBurn, and the difference between those two is huge. And the fact that it is widely used by so many lasers out there, I think just in its compatibility with other people's projects, and or if you're jumping from laser to laser, it's more compatible, is worth it. But it comes at a cost. You got your upfront cost of the license, and then if you want to continue getting updates, there's the annual renewal. But it's my preferred software. I don't mind using XCS, but I still design things in other software, and we'll usually run it through LightBurn first before dropping it into XCS.
He decided he wanted to come back in and get some cat food.
Well, he found out that there wasn't any loud snapping noises outside.
Well, I think Rogue, my shepherd, I think she was outside barking at me for making that popping noise, and that's what got his attention.
There you go. Norbert's saying a silhouette of R2D2 pushing a lawnmower.
That would work. I got to figure out, put all that together, but yeah, I'm sure there's some AI somewhere that would probably draw that right up for me. Yeah. But what fun's that?
Chuck's asking, what did I think of Jeremy's Sasquatch magnets on last night's live? I'll be honest, I was more listening than watching because I was working on setting up the rotary on the Omni One, so I only caught bits and pieces of what they were making last night. But I did hear a comment that asking if it was inspired by me. So, but yeah, no, it is cool seeing what other people are making and kind of get some ideas for our own projects. So it's is one thing they do every Saturday is it every other Saturday? They usually are doing a project during their live, which is kind of cool. So,
yep. Jeffrey, so far none of them really care. Biscuit could care less. Now he likes to play the game of let me lay in front of it and see if it'll go around me. But other than that, he doesn't matter. He doesn't care. But I can tell you that it will avoid a dog. If a dog walks out in front of it and lays down, it will go around him. Because he will lay there and let it happen. He won't bother to move.
Well, that's good.
Yep. Let's see here.
Yeah, just attach lasers to the top of it.
I am going to make me some stickers if that sticker machine ever shows up that they keep saying they're sending me. Why is there a cat hissing at a dog? What are you doing over there?
I mean, that's just nature at work.
The cats give him such a hard time. He just lays there. He's just like, I don't care. Like I'm not worried. Like one of them, I guess, tried to come in the cat door, and he's laying right beside it. So they just stuck their head in the door and hissed at him. So yeah, there he comes. He's like, let me come on over here. All right. Great Skiller says, hey, all checked out Clack's lawnmower video. Couldn't help but notice that the Crocs were in We Mean Business mode. I can only wear them in that mode. They don't like, I used to wear my Jesus shoes, my sandals, my leather sandals back in the day. Those were my footwear of choice. My daughter bought these for me back when I had my first back surgery and I couldn't like lean over to put on shoes or whatever. So I kind of got used to wearing them, but now I done got 3 pair of these things. These are my work Crocs. I got my work Crocs, my dress Crocs, and my cold weather Crocs.
Dress Crocs.
Yeah, they're solid black and they're clean.
Okay.
I'm telling you, it's going to be the official Clack Shack uniform. I also found that I went the other day to Lowe's and they sell Carhartt cargo shorts that are just right. I mean, they got like the pocket for the pins and the rulers and stuff. It's pretty handy.
You know, I don't think I want to come work for the Clack Shack because the uniform is. I just don't think I can get on board with it.
Well, you're going to have to work on your croc tan.
Yeah, well, that's only part of the problem.
So you got to have a tan that like stop where your croc starts.
You don't have like weird tanned spots on your toes?
Yeah, right now I got ant bites and chigger bites and scratches, and I kind of look like I've been living in a cardboard box because I have been working my tail off out there in that yard.
Yeah. Well, hopefully all that work pays off and you don't have to worry so much about the yard.
See, you can stain Crocs too, by the way. So if you were to, and I'm going to tell you another thing, you can stain your toes while wearing Crocs if you're not careful as well. Because I had to, and if you get stain on top of your foot, did you know you have to wear that off? Like, I mean, I guess you could probably use mineral spirits or something, but I was like, nobody's going to see it. It's going to wear it off.
You know, some people pay for that. It's called a spray tan.
Well, I just wore it off. It eventually came off.
Well,
nobody knew that. It was my own little secret.
Okay, this one I'm curious about. Ray Viking has OSHA Crocs, no openings on them, weld cut wood with no shavings or splinters.
Yeah, that my cold weather Crocs are like that, but now my feet sweat in them real bad. So
cold weather Crocs.
Yeah, they don't have the holes.
Oh.
And they got like fuzzies in them.
Okay.
So
all right.
Hey, I'm telling you, I just hang on. I'll get you a set. What size you wear?
Mm-hmm.
I'll order you a set. Get you some orange ones.
That would not be a wise investment.
Mercy. Mark said you can print a set.
Yeah, I've seen people do that. They're more of clogs than Crocs.
Hey, Mike, I ain't gonna lie to you. I have been very tempted to take my black Crocs and put them on the UV laser and see
Nike swoosh.
See if I could put designs on them. I'm serious. I thought about it. I thought about getting me like seeing if I could put like the logo and stuff like that on them. I still haven't ruled it out, but my black ones they're just too nice. You know, if I like damage a pair, maybe I try it then. But
see, I'm feeling like this is like the chicken livers where you try to pass it off as everybody does it, but everybody around you I know usually swears off the things you talk about.
Brandy can't quite get with it. I'm telling you, I like it because growing up, I used to run barefoot a lot. Now I'm tenderfooted. Like I am tenderfooted now. When I was a kid, though, I used to run around barefoot a lot. So this is like the closest thing you can be to barefoot is Crocs or sandals. And sandals kind of went out. You know what I mean? Like my old leather Jesus shoes, they kind of faded into oblivion. So they've been replaced by the Crocs. And I mean, you gotta rock the Crocs if you
okay,
you want to be cool these days.
I'm going to counterpoint that though, because if you want a shoe that feels like it's
oh no, I can't wear them toe shoes. I can't have nothing between my toes. Yeah, I can't do that. Like my toes, you don't understand. My toes are cramped. My toes are not made for that. That would irritate me to no end.
So no joke, I've had like 3 different pairs of these.
I could see you with that. I mean, that's why up there they have those Bigfoot sightings with those Bigfoot tracks. It's because you've been running around wearing those toe shoes, going camping and stuff.
They can be comfortable, but yeah, you got to get the right. Of course, you got to get the matching socks. So it's definitely it's an acquired taste, but yeah.
Yeah. No, Greg, they're khaki shorts. The Carhartt ones are. But now my short size has went up a bit lately. Since I had this last surgery, I have put on some weight, guys, and I can't get it off. I don't know if it's just 50 caught up with me or what, but I'm about to the point where I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to embrace it. Crocs were, hey, they still pretty popular around here. Now my buddy Tim's got them fancy Crocs. He got them Crocs that's got the leather trim on them up at the sports shop, and that's what Tim wears. He wears khaki shorts. He's got his brown Crocs that have leather like on the exterior of them.
Is that for business casual Crocs?
He wears them year round. Like it'll be 20 degrees outside. He's wearing Crocs and dang cargo shorts. Like wow. Brandy even this. I hope she's still here because she can vouch for this actually happened. Brandy, because they were making he got an award through the chamber, kind of like the one that I got a few years ago. And when he showed up, he had like dressed up, for the occasion. Like he put his long pants on and everything. Well, they're standing around talking, and he's told me this story so many times because he thought it was hilarious. Because she walks over, and it took her a minute. She almost didn't recognize him. And when she did, she looked at him, and they're in a group of people now. Like she's just not just her and Tim. There's a group of people. And she looked over there at him, and she said, well, Tim, I almost didn't even recognize you with your pants on. And like it took a minute. You know what I mean? Like it took a minute for everybody to realize what she meant. And Tim likes telling that story. Because he said, yeah, you heard your wife didn't recognize me with my pants on, didn't you? And it caught me off guard for a minute. And I'm like, what? So then he told me the story. Because he doesn't ever wear pants. He wears shorts like year round.
So Greg's wondering, are they orange Carhartt shorts?
No, they're khaki. They look a lot like these that I got on. Like, well, shoot, I ain't finna get my legs up that high. Yeah. There you go.
You gotta work on your modeling walk. Your what do they call that? The catwalk.
Hey, this ain't Brett's Laser Garage. I know y'all saw that, right? I know y'all saw that, right? All right, Brett, if you're in here, bro, I'm gonna give you some free advertisement today because we were discussing some stuff the other day, and Brett, I don't know, decided that it was a good idea to make him a video with a very interesting thumbnail. I'm trying to pull it up here. And when I first saw it, I about fell out. I was like, no, he didn't. But guys, yes, he did. Hang on, let me get my screen capture software where I can capture this and blow it up for y'all's amusement here. So y'all can go tell Brett whatever. I don't even know what you would comment on this. But Brett over at Brett's Laser Garage, and he was on the show
2 weeks ago, right?
2 weeks ago. Yeah, he was on the show 2 weeks ago. And
perimeter alert.
And anyway, this is his thumbnail, guys. Brace yourself. Brace yourself.
You're gonna get our stream flagged.
No, it's not. It's nothing bad. It's not like hide your kids or nothing. But yeah, there's his thumbnail. All right. So, and some of you guys may know what he's, I guess, what he's kind of chomping around at, or you know what I mean. But there's some advertising and some marketing out there that I guess he was trying to copy. I don't know that it worked as well for him as it did for the original folks that did it.
Well, they say imitate the successful. So.
Hey, I mean, so there you go. If you want to talk about somebody that can do their modeling skills, there it is right there. Biscuit, what are you doing? If I let you back out, I ain't let you back in. Oh, let me go let this dog out.
Stu, Owasu, would it be worth it trying to take my Genmitsu Ultra's parts to make a 4 foot by 2 foot? I mean, all it really takes is the right extrusion. If you can get the same extrusion as the panels in between the plates and everything, you got to get yourself some longer belts or ball screws. Is it worth it? Depends on what your value is. I mean, building a CNC in and of itself, you get a lot of value of kind of understanding the inner workings of parts and, you know, the experience of tinkering and making it work and building up. For some people, that's worth it in and of itself. If you're just wanting a bigger CNC, buying the parts versus buying a larger CNC that's pre-made for that, cost-wise and time-wise, you're probably going to be in the negative. But the fun factor and the customization factor and the learning factor, that's something to be said too, if that's of interest and value to you.
Yeah. Grace said there's some smoking hot laser ladies putting out content not made funny and trying to dress the same way. Yeah, it's like I said, hats off to him. I ain't got it in me. But he had some fun with it, I guess. The comments on that video were pretty funny.
You know, you've been having some surgeries lately, so maybe just one more.
I just don't think so, sir. I don't think so. That's not really my thing there. It's not my cup of tea.
Well, coming up on about 15 minutes left, and we've caught up on chat. So
yeah. Oh no, Sharon! If I made the door any bigger, he would be in here all the time. And I caught him the other day. I was sitting here working on a video or something, and I heard something rattle. It sounded like plastic rattling. I'm like, what in the world? And I look over there, and he's laying beside my planer with his big head propped up against it, chewing on the handle that you adjusted up and down. So no, he is not to be in this shop unsupervised.
Yeah,
not a good idea.
If anything, I need a one-way door for the cats to get out of my basement shop. Because normally they're sitting on the stool or sitting on a laser. They're in plain sight. And I'm like, all right, come on, let's go. But I kicked one out the other day and didn't realize one of them was still in there until probably longer than I'd like to admit. I hear some meowing coming from my shop. And I'm like, oh, oops. But I don't want them just willy-nilly coming in there. Because sometimes I'm running the galvos and I got my goggles on, but they're at that height where an errant beam could actually do some serious damage. So,
well, the cat door that I have, it's got little sliders that you can slide and you can control which direction it swings, and you can push them both and actually lock it to where they can't come or go. So you might want to look.
The dog rips it out.
Yeah, until the dog gets his head stuck in it and snatches the whole thing out of the wall. This is a new one though. The other one was exactly the same. So, yeah.
Yeah. Jack says it doesn't have nice stuff to start with. Don't need a dog chewing on stuff.
Yeah, no, I got on to him about that, and he hadn't messed with it since. But like I said, typically he's in here when I'm in here. So the cats are bad enough. I got one cat that will sit there and chew on stuff. I don't get it. I've never had a cat chew on stuff a lot, but Callie will sit there for some reason and just chew stuff. The rest of them just want to rub their face on corners and so forth, but Callie will actually chew on things.
Yeah, Gray Viking. I mean, I have cameras out here that will kind of alert me when there's movement and such, which is actually, I got to work on it because sometimes I have to turn it off because if I'm out here working, I don't need the constant alerts. But yeah, I have one that it's in the hallway going to the shop, but not actually in the shop down there. So I don't know. But like I say, normally I catch them, but this one must have just been, I don't know, under a workbench or doing something. And felt bad because I'm pretty sure I ran some errands in between him getting locked in there and me getting him out of there.
No, there's a big head sticking through the cat door with a leg. There's a head and a leg sticking through the cat door now. Did we not discuss what was going to happen if I let you outside? He's going to get himself stuck.
All right. Dean Stoughton's asking, got a good hardwood supply option, or is JPP a decent price? Here's one that I like. They're up in Wisconsin, so shipping is pretty inexpensive for me, but I think they're fairly reasonable across the U.S. It's Okuch Hardwoods. They're in kind of western central Wisconsin. They have a lot of nice material, and they actually cater to people with lasers and such. So they have this laser starter pack, or you can order individual things down to, I think, at least a 16th, if not thinner, in a lot of the materials. So you can get a good supply of it. They also have Baltic birch plywood. And another thing to look on their site is they often have, where is it? They sometimes have their cutoff boxes. If I can find it, but they're kind of like the second hand. Yeah, seconds here. So you can get a thin or a thick, and it's just a random box of material. And here it's $18.75 plus some shipping. I've bought some of those just to have a miscellaneous supply of things on hand. And then you can combine it with, any of their, domestic and some more exotic woods here in different sizes. So it's a family-run business, like I say, out in west central Wisconsin. I've always gotten really good quality stuff from them. It doesn't seem to, when I bring it in, I lay it flat, usually a little weight on it. It doesn't seem to really warp too much. So that's a place that I recommend looking at if you're ordering it online. Otherwise, always check local too. Hardwood dealers or lumber dealers, sometimes they have a certain supply of it. It just might not be the super thin stuff you may or may not want.
Cool. Ryan says, you guys got any plans for the 4th? I'm not sure. Probably just be working. That's about all I ever do. I don't ever go anywhere, hardly. I did take a short vacation, like 3 or 4 days, a week ago. But yeah, I'm always working until I get retired. I'm hoping that once I retire, I have more time. But everybody keeps telling me that ain't gonna be the case.
Yeah. Let me get the link for that out there.
Y'all talking about lumber? I just went Friday to a rugby and got myself some more. That's these sheets that you see that I've got over here propped up. These are half sheets right there, other side of my sign, that I cut on the CNC earlier. Matter of fact, that camera will probably show you better. There they go. Yeah, those are half sheets. I chopped them in half on the CNC earlier because I needed some approximately 4x4 sheets. But that's that birch plywood that I buy from them. It was $18.74 a sheet for the unfinished and $22.40 for the one side pre-finished. I don't get the two side pre-finished because it makes it a little more difficult to glue stuff together if both sides are pre-finished. But the one side is really handy for like name signs because I can just take one coat of whatever color paint and paint it, and it pops. Like, it looks good. I ain't got to go, paint dry, paint dry, paint dry. I can just one good coat, let it dry, and it's golden. But yeah, this stuff, $22.40 for a 4 foot by 8 foot sheet, and I'll make that $22 back on one name cutout that I do. And it pays for the whole sheet. And I think I get like 12 individual pieces, I think, altogether off of that. So
nice. Yeah, it's good to find a local source of bigger sheets like that when you can break it down. Definitely makes it more economical. So
not board, that's a 1/4 inch material. It's what I went to it exclusively for about the past year or so. And this stuff is solid. Like, it doesn't bend, it doesn't break. Now, it's not as pretty as, say, good Lord, the cat hair. It's not as pretty as, say, the maple or some of the other hardwoods and stuff, but it looks really good, especially for the price that I'm paying, because you go buy craft plywood, $20 ain't gonna get you much. So Oh, his cat hair went everywhere. The cat had been laying on top of that piece of wood.
DJ Comp has a recommendation for the Bamboo P1S. If I'm going to put the AMS on top of the printer, is a printable hinge system from the maker's site. I used ABS to print for both. Cool. Yeah, I've been looking at that. I've also been looking at some of the different mounts for the AMS Lite for the A1 because I've been fine with it setting to the side, not mounting it on there, but I actually was looking at some wall mount options. So I wouldn't even have to necessarily mount it on top of the A1 since that pretty much has been in the same spot since I put it there. There are definitely some cool upgrades on there, but yeah, I'll check that out. I was looking at some of that with some of the recommendations people of the original AMS, how they didn't like tearing it apart every time they had to like adjust certain things and extract broken filament out of the tubes and such. So thanks for sharing that. I'll check it out.
Norbert, if you like I said, you could make that possible using a couple of different things. Like if you have, let's say you have your exhaust on a smart plug, you can actually go into like Alexa or some of the other apps, and you can create basically triggers for actions. So you could say, okay, when I turn on this smart plug that controls my exhaust fan, automatically turn on this smart bulb and set it to color red. You know, you can go in and create those daisy chain effects. Like my notification system, the way it works is I've got actual motion sensors, beam sensors around the area. And when one of those goes off, it sends an alert. And then inside my automation app, it basically says, when you see an alert from this device, make these devices say this phrase. And so, you know, you can get in there and with those, little Internet of Things devices, and you can create some pretty complex like daisy chains. Like you could say, you know, when this does this, turn on, because like I can literally come in here and I have a phrase, and I'm not going to say it because it'll change everything about the way this place looks right now. But I can say this phrase, and it changes the color of those lights up there. It turns a couple of my lights on and off. It does all kinds of things. Matter of fact, I don't want to mess y'all up, but let me do it this way. So, like when I'm not live, that's the way I generally have the lighting because it's a little easier for me to see in here. But when I get ready to go live, I just have this little phrase. And it sets all that up. So, and then I have other phrases. So when I get ready to go to bed at night, instead of having to turn everything off, I just say one phrase and it kills all of it. And in the event that I need more, I got them. So yeah, it's wild. Like you can, like I got a fan that's remote that came with my own tech, but I had thought about putting one of the smart plugs on my exhaust fan, so that instead of having to like reach over and flip a switch or whatever, I could just verbally turn on my exhaust or turn off my exhaust. But yeah, it's a little spoiled. I did find out the other day that I accidentally put the bedroom light in one of my like macros that I designed for my stuff. And so when I would turn the lights off in here, it would turn the light on in the bedroom. So I had to fix that. Brandy was getting a little frustrated every night when I'd come in the house, it'd turn the light on. But yeah. But it's wild, guys.
Yeah.
Technology, I love it. I'm a nerd. I can't help it.
Yeah. JR, that's cool. I was actually looking at the enclosure for the AMS Lite today, so probably going to be printing that out pretty soon too. Yeah, I haven't decided on the wall mount or the top mount. The top mount's nice because if I do move the printer, it's there, but wall mount's also pretty easy and keeps that weight off the whole assembly and everything. So we'll see.
There's my doorbell, my back porch. But see, I can control all of that stuff. That's just it is awesome. I can even tell my lawnmower to go cut certain parts of the yard now, or my vacuum. It's insane.
Mark's mentioning the Vauxhall makes a good 2-stage internal filtration system for the P1S. He prints ABS and ASA, which are pretty stinky and eliminates all the noxious odors. That's cool. I'll have to check that out as well, because that's one thing I've been debating if I want to move this into my shop area where I have more air extraction available to me versus doing an internal filter.
Does it have an exhaust port on it?
I don't know. It's still in the box.
You didn't look at that during your research, so you don't know?
You can always make one if it doesn't have one, but usually not a lot of them do per se, because they're usually more worried about heating.
Yeah. Well, that would be my thing, is because there's a balance between exhausting it and, maintaining a constant temperature inside it.
Filtering it would be better.
Yeah.
So I'll have to check that out. It looks like JR has it as well. So I'll definitely have to check that out.
Huh.
Yeah, Mark, we have to start somewhere. The Wise cameras are pretty decent and cheap. I've played around with a number of different lights. The problem is I've had some of them come in and out of various support, whether you're using Amazon Alexa or Google Home or Siri stuff. And I get tired of like them all having the helper app to then integrate with them. So I always like when they natively work with stuff. So
yeah.
Without filtering it, I was worried about it. But if the Vauxhall filter is being recommended by a few of you, I'm definitely going to check that out.
Well, there you go. Get you a filter.
Yeah. People helping me spend money.
That's right. Hey, that's when you got it like you got it over there. You got to spend it on something. You can't take it with you.
Okay. I got 2 kids in college and another one about to get his driver's license. I wouldn't say I'm swimming in money.
Yeah. Oh, hey, and if you're like me, you probably got enough stuff already that's just like lined up, waiting for you to get a little bit of money in your pocket. There's like, you know how long I've been talking about getting me a robot lawnmower since CES, because they got my attention at CES.
Oh, I know.
And I really wanted one of those. And I was kind of hoping maybe one of those companies would be like, hey, you want one? But never happened. So I've been doing my research ever since CES, matter of fact, on which one I wanted to get. And I just couldn't. I just could not make myself put up that RTK antenna, because it just, I don't know. It just when there were other options out there. I'm not saying it's bad technology, but if I'm spending my money on it and I don't have that extra piece of equipment, point of failure, or extra install, I'm staying away from it. So far, so good.
Yep. Well, Ryan says the Vauxhall filament's really nice too. Order 3 rolls and it's free shipping. Y'all are just trying to spend all my money.
There you go. Go and just give them your credit card number and let them order you some stuff.
Do they have Clack Shack orange?
Oh, I'm sure they do. It's a popular color these days. Like it's high demand.
Well, they have RFID compatible Python, Bamboo Lab, AMS up. Wow. They do have a lot of cool things out here. I had read about them, but I haven't looked too deeply at them with just the A series. They got stuff for Prusa as well. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're rolling over 2 hours. So
speaking of which, it appears that my robot is nosed into the charger where he's supposed to be. You can only see the indicator light on the charger.
I was gonna say, was he mowing in the dark?
No, that's but it's got that camera on there, which is cool. So you can also use it to like drive around and look at stuff.
Cool.
Well, we got 2 hours and 4 minutes, guys. So we're about to have to wrap it up because unfortunately, still got 94 days, which means I got to go tomorrow. I don't want to, but I got to.
Well, we've got one more day. So on Tuesday, our new college president starts. So,
Yep.
guard there.
These strange things says Zigbee makes its own mesh network. The more devices you add, the better the service, and it's all local. That's cool. Which I already have mesh set up here. As a matter of fact, I just upgraded it. What, 2 weeks ago? Yeah. So, yeah, it's cool when you, especially if you're spread out like I am, where my shop's here and the house is over there, and I'm walking back and forth all the time. Mesh.
Well, it's nice when it's a true mesh. You know, like when the devices talk with each other, whether it be the IoT things or your inherent Wi-Fi network, because some of them are still like hub and spoke mesh, where they have to be within range of the main unit. But when they're truly a mesh and they can piggyback off each other and help connect each other, that's the nice thing. So
yeah, well, mine's the it's both of them are wireless networks, but they are connected with Cat 6. So it's a true like handoff scenario, like almost like a cell phone network, because I had set it up where I had different SSIDs out here than in the house. And it started getting on my nerves because when I'd go in to get something for lunch, my Wi-Fi wouldn't swap, or when I come from the house to here, it wouldn't swap. So I scratched that idea and went back to a mesh setup because I had the older generation mesh network, and it just didn't seem like it was smooth as what the new one is. And so when I upgraded this last time, it seems to be making a huge difference. I went from having a wireless access point out here to having a full-blown router, and it's definitely a lot more stable than using those little APs.
Yep. Mark, it's not quite that ceremonial, but all the background work is similar. You got to reissue certain things and redo paperwork under new president and all that, make sure systems are set up so they can authorize things, and sometimes fill out new delegation forms for things because the old president delegated and the new president has to do it as well. So but it's not as like pomp and circumstance and fancy kind of thing. Some of them will have like a convocation or invocation or whatever they call it down the road, you know, more of a celebration, but they don't do an official like handoff of command codes or anything.
Yeah. Jeffrey's asking, I've got 23 devices in my house. Would setting up a mesh network improve my network? The mesh is not necessarily about load or capacity. That's not really what it does. Mesh network, think of it as like a standard Wi-Fi network. It's kind of like a radio station. The further you get from the radio station, the signal starts diminishing to the point to where eventually you just get static. Whereas a mesh network kind of works like cell phone towers. You have this smooth transition from one tower to the next as you move between them, so you don't have a dropped call in the middle. That's kind of the purpose of a mesh network. So if all your devices are fixed and you're not moving from like, you know, one extreme side of the house to the other constantly, it's not really going to benefit you that much. If you live in a really big house and let's say your modem's on one end of the house and your devices are on the other end, in that situation, it might actually help enhance your coverage area. But the mesh network's more about coverage area versus like network load per se. 23 devices is not a lot on a local network. Now your internet connection may be bottlenecking depending on what kind of bandwidth you have, but that's my 2 cents. Steve might can share some more light on it for you.
I mean, what you said is right. I mean, it's not always even just necessarily a big house, but sometimes an older house has a weird plaster wall that signal just doesn't want to go through. But as far as improving your network, making sure you've got a router and can set up separate Wi-Fi and maybe segment devices. So if you have some really old 2.4 devices and you have a router that doesn't necessarily do dual band very well, your 2.4 devices connecting at a slow speed could be bringing down the speed of everything else. So it's nice to be able to kind of segment those out, or even segment out like your IoT devices from your regular one. So they're making that easier. A lot of them will have kind of guides to set some of those up. That would maybe help your security and your speed of some of your faster devices versus the slower things. But mesh is more of just making sure you got quality coverage throughout the area you're trying to cover.
Yeah.
So, but they can also be a little fickle too.
Yes. Yeah. Sometimes that smooth transition isn't so smooth, and when that happens, that's where I got to. I got to where, like I said, the handoffs just weren't happening. Like it was waiting way too late before it shifted gears, and
Yeah.
you know, it just was causing problems. But yeah,
Well, and yeah, I mean, when you get a lot of devices in an area, so like at the college, we will tone down the signal power on APs so that they only hit a certain room, or sometimes multiple in a certain room. So like the left side of the room and the right side of the room, because that helps balance the load on the backhaul channels as well. Because if you got a conference center and there's 2 APs and you got 500 people connecting to them, you're gonna saturate that pretty quick. But
oh yeah,
most home networks don't have to worry about too much of that. It's more of just separating maybe your non. It's nice to separate some of your IoT devices and other things into their own network to some degree, so that they're not competing with the other traffic and they're not blending with it, because they tend to talk with the internet more maybe, and maybe you want to secure your other devices a little more. But that's kind of getting into more complex things, and you might want to jump into.
Most average users do not need sub networks or anything like that. Most places, unless you're, like I said, if you're like overly cautious about security, then whatever.
Well, and if you have older devices that just really need to have a 2.4 network, there are some that
routers today are mixed mode. The ones that
right, but some of them you got to force it into that one to get it to connect the first time. So it's nice to have that for those. But yeah, that's one of my complaints about a few of the lasers that we've looked at, is that they cheaped out on the Wi-Fi gear.
Yeah,
so
yeah, another $2 or $3, and they could have had a new Wi-Fi 6, card in them instead of the old 2.4 gigahertz, like slow as all get out UDP card.
Yeah.
So,
I saw this one come up a second time, so we should hit it. Is it worth learning to program that computer language that's so much faster than G code, ESP the future? I mean, I'll be honest, across the spectrum, learning computer programming anymore, you got to really enjoy it, because there's so many tools that are going to build the base for you. I mean, even, I mean, say what you will about AI, but you can write some pretty slick programs without knowing any programming, and then just do some minor massaging. It's starting to get to that kind of Star Trek level where they're like, computer, write an algorithm for blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. And it spits out some pretty accurate information. So it's going to be one of those things, you want to do it because you can, not so much because it's going to be more effective.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like when I first started doing computer forensics, carving files was the big thing. Like being able to look at the hex and just pick out those headers and be able to segment that part of the code and, reattach it and fill in the blanks and all that. It was a big thing. But like within 2 or 3 years of me starting doing computer forensics, they came out with these forensic suites that you didn't even have to. I mean, they got to where, like, when you go to Secret Service training, they would teach you what carving was and let you play around, like on a couple of little small 8 gigabyte thumb drives. But as far as doing it on any major level, the software did it all for you. It would literally go in there and look for those headers, and it would find those blocks of corrupted data and piece them back together. And you would like basically resurrect that image, even though maybe like the top was there, the bottom was there, but there's this big black stripe in the middle from the missing code. It would piece it together good enough for you to forensically recover it. But now the softwares have gotten so much more advanced now that it's crazy. Like what used to take me 2 or 3 days of running a brute force attack to try to get through passwords, they're using these new AI tools and stuff, and they're cracking passwords way faster than those brute force attacks could. Because even back then, like we would dump like the dictionary out of a computer, because a lot of people would use certain words and they would add it to their dictionary accidentally. And so we used to do a dictionary dump and then throw it into the forensic software to run those custom words against the passwords and stuff. But now with the tools that they've got now, it does all that for you. You don't even, all you have to do is connect the computer or the hard drive and hit go, and it does everything. So AI and the technology is evolving so fast that, yeah, like you said, by the time you learn coding, it's going to be obsolete because AI is going to be doing all of it for us.
Right. I mean, you do still need to kind of check it, but it's an interesting changing landscape. It's also a little bit scary.
Yes. Yeah. What was it you said? My robots are going to take over Skynet.
Skynet's going to come. They're going to take over your robot and it's going to be like, hey, he's been slaving me away for years. Come get this guy.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, it's been fun. And it's been real. So another week under our belt.
It has. And it's July next week. So hope everybody has a good 4th of July if you're here in the U.S. Everybody else, hope you have a good Friday. And we'll be back next Sunday for the second half of the year.
Let's see. What will next Sunday be? It's not going to fall on a holiday this time, is it? No, it's the 6th.
It's the 6th.
So
cool.
Well, that's all I got, guys. Somebody was asking about the background. That's actually some moss. It looks like a sweet gum tree and some moss. I just thought it was a cool picture. It kind of, it had an outdoorsy woodworking vibe. So
outdoorsy.
Yeah. Well,
I just want to work with that mossy bark.
Yeah, but you got to peel that off when you take it to the sawmill. That's how it works. You got to scrape it off. Matter of fact, hopefully when I get retired, maybe I can resurrect the sawmill because everybody keeps asking me when I'm going to run it again. But anyway, till then.
All right. We'll see you, everyone.
#94. Later, guys.